Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gotham Chess Slow Run. In this series, I am playing on an authorized account on chess.com, moving up the rating ladder from 400. This is episode number 21, and we are halfway past the point from 1,000 to 1,100. Now, many of you have been enjoying this series. I've enjoyed reading your comments so far, and whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced player, hopefully there is something to pick up in all of these episodes, even if your rating is not the exact one of the episode. This episode is called Early Intermediate because in my next book, I wrote that book, How to Win at Chess, to get people from beginner to early intermediate level. And my second book is from roughly 1,000 to 1,600. It comes out later in 2026. It's called How to Win at Chess Next Level. And in that book, we focus on pawn play, piece play, attacking, defending, decision-making, trading, and so on and so forth. And now we are going to see over the next 10 episodes really exactly that. I think that everything that I covered in that second book, and I will now cover it in a different format, obviously the video format, will be very helpful for you as you aspire toward all of your different chess goals. So on that note, we kick things off with a game in this episode against, I think, the strongest player so far. Let us play. I've played many openings, obviously, so far in this series. Let's play a Caro-Kann. It's one of my favorite openings. I have played it many, many times. Let's move things around here a little bit so the formatting is looking nice. Sometimes I have to do this live on the fly. My opponent plays d4 and I play d5. Now, very important. Caro-Kann is really against e4. It's an opening against the move pawn to e4. Caro-Kann is not just these two moves as black, it is specifically against the king's pawn, and we play like this, so we target the center. Now, this is called the exchange Caro-Kann because obviously we have exchanged pawns. From this point, we would like to play knight here, light squared bishop out, pawn up, and dark squared bishop out. White can do a handful of things. It is inaccurate for white to put the knight in front of the c-pawn. This move is completely harmless. You can trade your bishop here. You can also develop the knight. Both are completely reasonable. I will show you why this is not something you should fear. Many people actually just take this knight because they just, oh, look at what I just said, huh? It's almost as if I know what these people are going to do. Many people take this because they're just like, I promise these are not scripted. I just know how intermediate players think. Like this is why I'm a good teacher. People do this out of inertia. They just don't know what to do, so they just make some move. Well, this just helps you, right? Now, again, you could just develop the bishop, as I have said. But one other benefit here is that you can go this way, which is kind of a cool move. It's not normal. Usually you put your bishop the other way. And my opponent actually blocks that diagonal to enable castling. Now I'll play e6, get my bishop out, and I will also castle. I like this move. I'm not going here to take this knight. There's no need to take it. My opponent fits the genre and description of a player who is just playing fast. That's just all White is doing. White is just making kind of just moves. White's just moving, all right? This is the position that we have, okay? What on earth do you do in this position? How do you play a position like this? Well, and this is what the entire second book is about. This is what being an intermediate and then graduating to an advanced player, what it looks like. You have to know what to do with your pawns or with your pieces. Your opponent makes this move. Does it have an idea? I don't know. Not really, right? Like there's no. So you look around, you go, well, what can I do? Checks, captures, threats. We can take that. That doesn't do anything. We could go here. Now, the more advanced players watching do realize this sets up what's called a Greek gift sacrifice, which is where you give up the bishop, and then you jump in with your knight, and then you jump in with your queen. We'll analyze that a little bit later. That doesn't quite work here. Although I guess I could show you why that doesn't work. Another thing you can do is play with your pieces, like knight here, opting for a trade for knight for bishop, also putting pressure over here. You also have the concept of a pawn break, a break in the position that could potentially improve your position. You can bring your queen and connect your rooks. You're probably sitting there thinking like, Levy, make a move. So I will see what happens if I make a pawn break. Pawn to e5, engaging in a pawn trade. If my opponent takes me, I take, and then the game proceeds. We have changed the position very, very slightly. When the opponent takes, their queen is open, their bishop is open. That is something you have to keep an eye on. I actually do have a threat. I am threatening, okay, I was threatening to take the knight because my bishop is technically pinning over here. Bishop d4. Now, there is something in chess called keeping the tension. In this position, if I were to take my opponent's bishop, my opponent would simply take with the queen. That trade actually just benefits white because they just get a piece into the game. Even though the queen stops guarding the knight, right, it's still protected. So I'm going to keep the tension here. I'm keeping the tension with the bishops. Now, I've actually made a small mistake because of the move bishop to c5. Let's see if my opponent spots this. Now, we have been on the genre of... okay, they didn't. We have been on the genre of like, oh, maybe, you know, you make a mistake or two here and there to see if you can catch up in the game. But the other reason I played like this, and I was seeing if this would happen, to show you how to fight back if you were maybe down a little bit of material, is that this set up a battery. And so now I'm able to grab a pawn near my opponent's king. Bishop takes h2. Now, the damage has been done. I can just bring the bishop back. Let's see if my opponent spots this now. Second time's the charm. They do not. They are kind of trudging forward. But there's no reason we can't take this. We can always back up, but that pawn is there to sort of protect us. And now the knight takes. And now we need to make a decision. Are we trading the bishop for the knight? Or do we move the queen as long as it maintains defense of this bishop? Very tough decision. And sometimes it's not easy to figure out which move is best. What I would tell you here, if I was analyzing your game, I'd say you have to catch up on time. That's actually like the most important thing. You really should catch up on time here. If you see through all of this, you do have some ideas here, like that pawn is hanging, and this bishop sees this bishop. So if I actually take this bishop, followed by taking this pawn, I'm clearing through the shrub of the position. And now I actually have a 2-pawn advantage. It's actually... Oh... That is inexcusable. That is an inexcusable mistake at 1060. But this playing style by white is very annoying. It's a very frustrating playing style because up until this point, white had not done anything that terrible. Like it's minus 1.2, which is fine. I'm up 2 pawns, but, you know, if white plays the move knight to f4, for example, trying to win one of my pawns back, I'm not, like, totally winning, you know? I would play rook to d8, and then the game would go on. Like, the white would try to win this pawn, and then I would take, and white is still up a ton of time, and before you know it, this 5 is going to turn into 4, going to turn into 3. So against a really fast player, you have to try to play simple, straightforward chess. The worst thing you can do against a very quick player is end up in a position that's very complicated, where you have 3 minutes versus 8, or 2 versus 7. Because then, you know, you're going to get tilted, and you'll have a winning position, but you'll screw it up because of time, and then you're going to feel really terrible about it. And that's just not going to work, you know? And you're going to be quite frustrated. Now, there's a lot to unpack in this game. I actually predicted... I can't remember if I've missed the game, by the way. I keep seeing some comments somewhere saying I missed one of the games, but maybe we have 80 wins. But regardless, it's kind of funny how in the Caro-Kann, I predicted everything that would happen in this opening. So in the Caro-Kann, yes, people like to trade. And then what they like to do here is they like to develop this knight and then this knight and then this bishop like this. Happens all the time. Now with black, I already told you the setup. There's several setups that are completely fine for black, but I like developing my knights. I like developing my light squared bishop. I think is the by far the easiest setup to play. Now, my opponent played the exact way I said not to, and actually black already has an advantage. Okay, I can move my bishop here. I can also move my bishop this way. One other move I have, for example, is rook b8, hitting that pawn. And the instructive moment was here, because in this position, I was sort of saying, like, okay, how do you play chess? Like, you know, there are some moves you can make in chess that don't do anything, but just slightly improve your position, and they can take you 2 seconds. And if you want to more efficiently use your time and not burn all of your clock time in chess, you have to play moves that are straightforward, relatively simple. You can kind of explain how they improve your position. For example, h6. rook to e8, queen to c7, queen to e7. Queen to c7 actually you can say is a battery which threatens this pawn. Totally reasonable. A random other move like bishop c4, that changes nothing. Nothing about the position changes it when you play bishop c4. But you can play it in like 2 seconds. Now, you should not spend a minute and 22 seconds here. But what I was showing you is how to use your pieces and how to use your pawns. Now, there is this thing here, a Greek gift sacrifice, where the h2 or h7 pawn is only protected by the king. You can sack your bishop. Then the second criteria is the knight can go here safely, which it can. And the third criteria is the queen can go here safely, which even if my opponent played this move, did not play this move, which is probably the best move, all of this can happen. It looks like it's a Greek gift. The fourth and final criteria is can they stop the defense with a diagonal piece or sometimes with a knight. So everything was here. Bishop takes h2, knight g4, queen h4. It looks like a Greek gift. But here your opponent would think for a little bit and would probably play bishop to f4. Or they would think rook e1, and then they would blunder that this is checkmate because knight to g1, bishop takes the king. And by that I mean, obviously, that would not be possible. So knight g4 is okay. You know, a lot of these moves are okay. I wanted to show you a pawn break. It's an interesting move. It's not the best move, but it's a move, right? Bishop d4. And again, I taught you here to evaluate an equal trade. Do you want to trade? Do you want to defend your piece and maybe play like rook e8? And this is obviously an improvement for black. Or do you want to take and give white this powerful queen? Keeping the tension, making decisions with your pawns or your knights or your bishops, making quick moves, right? Making quick moves that don't damage the position. Here, I defended, I kept the tension, but white does have this move bishop to c5. I was a little bit curious if my opponent would spot this. What's funny about this position, yeah, I actually had this feeling during the game, is that even if I were to lose this rook and be down material, my position is still better. It's still better because there are 2 pins in the position for white, so white can't move at all, and this is hanging. So if white plays h3, here I would play something like rook e8 and just keep applying pressure, and it would be, or rook d8. But I was curious if white sees this, and you know, this is a forcing move. You have to look at, can you attack the opponent in a more forcing way? Obviously, I took a pawn, I came back, you know, my opponent advanced, and I played simple chess. I took, and I did that because of the time situation, right? My opponent was playing really fast. I mean, for white to hang the queen in 2 seconds is just mind-blowing, like actually mind-blowing. But fast players do make mistakes. They do make mistakes. Let's see if we can get one more Caro-Kann. Every episode I've tried to place, you know, something a little bit different. Again, most popular is probably this exchange variation. Many people also play knight f3 and then they take this pawn. Some people still go for scholar's mate. So scholar's mate doesn't work at all against the Caro-Kann because of exactly this. And now we have played an exchange variation. So you have literally played an exchange. They exchanged in the center. You transposed. I would not be shocked if this move happens. Or like knight f3. And again, we know knight out. Okay, again, knight in front of the pawn. It's a mistake. We develop our knight. I expect white to play d4 here. If they don't play d4, we also have the option to take the full center. But we are just playing our exchange Caro-Kann. 2 knights. Okay, beautiful. I know that this is normal, but I'm going to develop and I'm going to pin the knight, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to develop the dark squared bishop, as I have already said. Extremely easy chess. Extremely easy. We are not taking the knight. That's not our idea. We're going to keep the pin. Keep the pin because it's difficult for white to make a move, or white will have to play pawn to g4, which is a little bit crazy. Now, there is a little tactic here for white, if white can spot it. But this is good principle chess. Okay, and now we play e6, rock solid. I really like that this position is, you know, the bishop is getting out. There is a little tactic here with d4. It's the fact that the knight, and look, I'll show you. All of our pieces are interacting. Bishop, knight, queen is defending both these pieces. But I'm playing principal chess. I'm just developing my bishop. I block the pin. I don't like this pin. I could have went here, but I don't like the pin. This would be a horrendous trade for white, giving us the bishop. Be a terrible trade. And now we're going to castle. Now we do have the ability here to win a pawn. We do have the ability here to win a pawn, actually. And it is either the move knight takes d4 or bishop takes f3 followed by knight takes d4. If you miss this tactic now and instead you castle, on the next move your opponent will long castle. Just for instructional reasons, I will castle and I will see if my opponent castles this way. If they don't, then I will punish them on the next move. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to have an actually advanced game. So even if you're like 1700 watching this right now, this will help you a lot. It's going to help you a lot. Oh my gosh. What? What is this? This is ridiculous. How can you not just castle there in 2 seconds? No, but this is unbelievable. Okay, now I'm just gonna, you go forward, you could go back, I don't really care. Like now I can't wait to be 1600 in the slow run, really, because like some of these games at 1600 will go 40 moves, and like there's so much to learn. Now we just win a queen. That's it. Look, I played 10 normal moves, and even a 1060 rated player, 2 of them hung a queen in this video. If you ever thought that you're struggling in Rapid, and I know everybody's gonna comment like, oh, the people I play don't do this. They do. Maybe not as frequently as 2 out of 2. Knight to d2, I'm just looking to trade the pieces, and we're just gonna... I'm really disappointed that this happened. I'm very disappointed. And, you know, my opponent might end up watching this video somehow, because people do watch the slow run, and... But, oh, come on. We have to do a little better than this. Okay. Of course, you can bring your rooks. Any move here is fine. I don't care. But this is the cleanest, because it's also a fork. And what I like to say is you should use your extra material. Here we are using the extra material. We are up a queen, so the queen has to go show its power, and we're gonna take. This is yet another fork. 2 more things are under attack. White can, of course, get in the way. And we are gonna look to trade the rook. When you have such an overwhelming material advantage, you can even sack a rook for a knight. It really makes no difference, because then you're gonna win another pawn. Oh, goodness me. And I hope white doesn't go here and lose this pawn, or go here and then lose the rook. I mean, this is no good. I'm very, very annoyed we couldn't even get out of the opening in this game, because there would have been so much intriguing and interesting stuff. But I will analyze the position with the bishop and the knight teaming up on d4 and how the piece dynamics work there. I just don't want to do it now, because my opponent's going to keep making moves. This is really mind-blowing. Okay, rook here, pick up the pawn. Now, maybe I'll just analyze mid-game, to be honest, because this might just take a lot longer than I would like. The reason the knight should not stand on c3, and the reason why in the exchange Caro-Kann almost always the d and c pawns go like this, creating a little trio, is exactly because of what happened in the game. When my knight has pressure on this pawn, when my knight has pressure on this pawn on d4, like in this position, you want this to be here, so it supports the center. This knight is misplaced. That knight likes to go there, and sometimes even this way, and develop there, because this is just under huge pressure, because you're going to take the knight, and the queen will not be able to guard the center. And taking with the pawn is just bad. And this bishop's totally out of the game, because white wasted time going bishop c4 followed by bishop b3. So nothing really worked here. Okay, we have many choices. Pawn to e5 is very clean. It attacks the knight. We get out of the way. If my opponent plays rook b1, I will just sag the queen for the rook, and then I will take the knight. Or sag the queen this way. This is also fine. Rook c2. Only way you can lose this is back rank checkmate, or disconnection, or on time somehow. What I really don't understand sometimes about players who make mistakes like losing a queen is they start to think after the mistake has been made. You have to think before the mistake is made, you know? Okay, I guess I can just play queen a2. I don't think my queen's getting trapped. It's actually almost getting trapped if rook a1. Rook a1, queen b2, rook b1, and my queen is trapped. Kind of incredible. Obviously, even if I lost the queen for a rook, I would have an extra rook for knight, and I'm up like 3 pawns, so... But if this, I will just take this. Yeah, I don't know. You can probably skip ahead to the next game of this video, because I promise you I want it. I will analyze a little bit more. Maybe I'm going to tell some really funny jokes. You know, maybe you don't want to miss anything. I'm going to... This is... This is rough. Okay, I mean, we can just keep analyzing, right? Like, if the opponent had not lost the queen and had castled, it would have been really interesting, because what ultimately would have happened, instead of knight to e5, you know, my opponent would have castled. We would have had a position backwards. It's a rook move, where with opposite side castling, that means the position demands attack. When the kings are on opposite sides, it's much easier to launch your pawns at each other. I'm just gonna sack the queen and then give a check and then do this. Why can't I pre-move? Do I have pre-moves not enabled? Whatever. Doesn't matter. We're just gonna sack. This is the cleanest and easiest way to win a game of chess. You push, push, push. If this, we still make it down. We make it before, and we must have a mate. We must have a mate. Where is the mate? Rook c3. Bring the king forward. Queen d4 and queen f4 is mate. All right. So you will see exactly what I'm talking about. By the way, two Caro-Kanns, two exchange Caro-Kanns. You see how easy it is to play? Like, very easy position in the Caro-Kann defense. Already from the opening, we are just better. We just have a minus 0.8 advantage from the opening. As early as even here, I could have taken this knight, and that is instructive, and you need to pay attention to this. Many people would just autopilot these moves. I actually don't really care if you autopilot them. I'm gonna be very honest. I don't want you getting this into your head, like I have to move the bishop twice, and then I have to, you know, punish my opponent's mistakes. Yes, as you get to like 12, 1300, you should know when you need to pause the principles in order to punish the opponent's mistakes. As early as the second move, you can already tell white is unprincipled. White is moving pieces multiple times in the opening, and this you already know is bad. And notice how I didn't go, oh, me push pawn, oh, me attack knight, oh, like, you know, caveman and fire. Like, man, those were crazy Geico commercials back in the day. Like, I just developed my knight. I'm playing principal chess. I'm getting both pieces out. This pawn is restricting these two pieces. If I push, and then I goes here, the bishop is alive. Bishop's alive and well. I mean, really, no need to do this. It's much more effective to, you know, restrict the pieces. And here, had the opponent gone long castle, would have been a very interesting position. Because what I would have shown you here is, okay, we need to play rook c8 to set up some sort of attack. White is going to attack us. We go here. And now here, you know, with the open c file, with the semi-open, you know, we're going to play a6, b5, a5. We're going to try to get these pawns moving. Knight a5, chop down the bishop, open up the rook. You know, maybe go knight back or knight even forward and trade the bishops while white is trying to checkmate. This would have been a rich, interesting attacking game. Instead, they hung a queen in one move. I'm not really sure what more to do there. I would love to help, but I'm not sure I can do much better than that. All right, let's go for an e4. Let's see what we got. Let's see what people are playing. Knight f6. So this is the Alekhine's defense. I don't know if that's what my opponent knows that they're playing. It's baiting us to push. To be very honest with you, that's definitely the best move. I'm curious what my opponent is planning here. Now, the secret after you do this is just don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. I don't want you to keep chasing the knight. It's okay, but two pawns in the center. That's the principled way to play. Two pawns in the center. Then develop your knight, your light-squared bishop, and castle your king. This is not principled. Black is relying on you rushing in with every single pawn and then chopping at you with their pawns. That's what black wants. They want d6 and c5, and then your pawns are going to fall apart. So that's the Alekhine's defense. It's a tricky opening, but just don't fall for the tricks. I actually don't even know. What is my opponent thinking about? This is like really interesting to me, because you play a very provocative opening, but now what? c5. Isn't that just capturable? Yeah. And if we do that, we're attacking the knight, right? No, we kind of violated principles. Okay, now we violated some principles here. Look at this, we're checked, and the pawn is going to be lost. Okay, so the most effective way to block this, let's block with the bishop, maybe. It's attacking the queen, right? And okay, now we go back to principal chess. This is our idea. We're going to just develop the knight, we're going to develop the bishop. We didn't play the best way. After c5, we will see after the game. But like, how do you play this as a 1,000 rated player, almost 1,100? That's our rapid rating. We've never seen this position before. So do we fall into the trap of like, oh, me attack all the pieces? Or me develop, then me decide. Maybe I go knight c3 and trade the knight. Maybe I push my pawns. Play like a3, b4, slow. We're monitoring these pieces. Are these pieces creating threats? Doesn't look like it. There is knight to b4, threatening this, but like, that only works if we're totally stupid. Like knight b4, we can just push the pawn, or we can knight c3. Knight c6 looks like a reasonable move. I would like to develop my bishop. Let's develop the bishop to the d3 square, because if we develop it here or here, it will be taken. And e2 feels passive. This is not the best. It's not the worst. Black could play knight b4 here. And then you have to decide, like, do you want to run away with the bishop? Oh, look at that. Do you want to run away with the bishop, or do you want to castle? Do you want to take? What do we do? Like, are we taking here? Let's just castle. Again, principle chess. Let's see how far principles take us. We have made a small mistake, a very small mistake. In this position, black can play knight takes pawn. So all of a sudden, we are not doing so great, right? We are not doing fantastic. I just talked about keeping the tension. So in this position, we could keep the tension, but black is also threatening to take this. We do have a move here, which is pawn to d4, which is a fork. The problem with that move is that the knight takes the knight with check. A lot of 1000 rated players would play the move pawn to d4 in this position. Let's play the move pawn to d4 and see what happens. Black might play knight takes f3, right? They might play this move. And look at this, it's on the board. Now you have to take with the queen, and suddenly we find ourselves down 2 pawns. Wow, uh-oh. So how do you fight back in this position? What do we have that black doesn't? We have development, right? So I'm gonna go here, I'm attacking the queen, queen's gonna move back, and we have development. Look at black's back row of pieces, right? Back row of pieces, not looking particularly great. Everything is stuck. So what do you do in a position like this? You try to centralize your rooks and you try to get the rest of the pieces out. I don't care if you go this way as long as you come back to the middle. You can also centralize your rook here. Yeah, let's play knight to d2. And we're going to play rook here and rook here. That is how you overwhelm an opponent whose pieces are stuck on the back rank. Now black here, yeah, black is actually playing pretty reasonable moves. Black should, slowly try to get all of their pieces out as well. Rook comes to the middle. Now the rook is staring directly at the pawn in front of the opponent's king, right? Okay, bishop d7 looks pretty reasonable. We can centralize this knight. We can also bring the second rook, maybe. I'm going to bring the second rook, so we're just getting all the pieces into the game. Bishop c6 attacks the queen. I have to say, this person is playing excellent, like really, really well. We can block with the knight, or we can keep the queen maybe just like somewhere over here. Let's maybe slide the queen over, or here, or here. They all look pretty decent. I like knight e4 as well because it gets kind of another piece into the game. Normally, I would say don't pin yourself. But we already have a vicious threat. A really vicious threat here. The threat is knight takes d6. If we get knight takes d6, the game is over. And it shows you the weakness of the king in the center of the board. Something tells me we're not going to get knight takes d6. I just have a feeling. Okay, we didn't get knight takes d6, but the opponent's king used to protect this pawn, and now you can capitalize queen f7. You have to spot moves like this. You have to. Because the thing is, if you don't, you're letting people get away with things that they shouldn't be, right? They're getting away with certain things that otherwise are simply not possible. So, opponent goes e5. Okay. I would love to jump in with my knight a little bit more. Everything here looks pretty good. And I have talked about things like making a move that doesn't do anything. I do see a check. The check looks like we could maybe win the pawn on d6 afterward. But I also like knight to g5 with the idea maybe of going knight to e6. That looks pretty annoying as well. So let's go knight to g5 and try to jump in with the knight to the e6 square. I just like that we're hitting the rook, the bishop, everybody. Meanwhile, these pieces are sort of staring down here, but they're not actually creating any threats. So far, this is easily far and away the strongest player that we have played. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. This person... Shout out to this person. This person is a serious player. Bishop to e8. Goodness me, what a move. So white, we are under threat here from the bishop. Now, we could give a check. We could also give a check here. We could also give a check here. All of these moves are possible. Let's give a check here. Let's see. Are they going to block with the bishop? This is so funny. Like, we could go back and they could repeat the position. Now, will my opponent repeat the position if we... Because the thing is, I also don't know if people are aware they're playing me. If they're aware they're playing me and they clicked on the profile, they're like, oh, I'm going to make a draw against Levy. I'm not going to make a draw. I'm going to obviously keep the game going. But, you know, like, people sometimes don't think, like, should I make a draw? Nah, I don't want to make a draw. But if you feel your position is bad, you should probably make a draw. Okay, h6. Well, we're going to probably jump in here. I don't see why we wouldn't. Knight to e6. And now we trade, and this is check. And we continue to apply a lot of pressure in this position to the opponent. A lot of pressure. Now, how do we break through? What do we do here? Like, I would love to sacrifice, but I'm not sure that works. Maybe rook sacrifice. I'm not sure that works. We do see a king here, so one thing I am considering is just like, how about just like running the pawn at the king? Because we know that with the king over there and the king over here, maybe we should open up the king a little bit with moves like a4, a5 like this, maybe a6 as well. One thing that does exist, though, is the fact that these pawns are delicate. They are delicate pawns. In fact, just off of this one move alone, this rook lost a very key defender. And with all of this going on, there's gotta be tactics. And this little maneuver deflected the queen from the defense of the rook. And now I'm looking at either rook e5 or bishop e5. And bishop e5 would attack the rook in the corner. That would be really nice. But after bishop e5, there could be this move rook to e8, which is like... It's mind-blowing. There's also this move. Ooh! Queen to f6. That attacks a rook and another rook. It's like straight out of a puzzle. How do you defend against that? I'm not sure you can defend against it. And moves like this will get you to 1200. Moves like this. You'll notice I kept everybody at home. Oh man. That's such a huge mistake now. Of course we trade. You don't have to trade, but now with the extra rook, we begin the process, right? Like I'm going to go bishop to b4 looking to win another pawn, obviously. And the simplest route to victory here is to trade that rook. So how are we going to trade the rook? We have to infiltrate. So I'm now taking my eyes completely off of the center. I am going to stack my rooks and infiltrate on the 7th rank where there's an opening. That is how you have to win when you have rooks together. Hey, look at my opponent doing the same thing. Look at this. Okay, well, not quite, but will they spot this now? Avoiding the trade of rooks? How strong is my opponent? Of course, then I will be taking. And you see how quickly rooks get in. Hopefully that's instructive for you. Once the position clears out and I'm not afraid of any counterplay anymore, I'm getting in with my rooks. Now, queen f6 was available to me, I think, immediately. No, it wasn't, because the queen was defending the... Okay, we're going to, of course, trade. Now, let's do this easy peasy. This was not the... Ooh, that's not good. We take. I respect what the opponent is doing. Let's give a check. Let's give another check. Let's give another check. Defend it here. Is this mate? It is. How cool is this? Bishop guarded by rook. Critical squares taken away by the queen, by the rook, by all these pieces. That was the best player that we have played so far. What a weird episode it's been. We had 2 disastrous games, and this next person was only 30, 40 points higher than the other ones, and was just an excellent player. My recommendation, folks, if you are going to face an Alekhine, is change the game back to a Vienna. Vienna is one of my favorite openings. It's one of the most effective beginner and intermediate openings. here after e5, you would play the Vienna Gambit, and it would be really, really effective. But you obviously can play what we did in the game. c5 is relatively normal. What I would do here is, again, I would just be principled. After cd4, I might even take with the queen, because this is under attack. And if they move it, develop the bishop. If they attack you, okay, move the queen somewhere. Move it somewhere safe. Castle, and you're very happy. In the game I took, I think it was fine. I played here. And now the best move for white is a very nice move, a3. That's not a 1000 level move. It's not even a 1500 level move. I think a 1500 might play like knight c3 or something. A3 just stops anything from going to b4. It enables bishop d3. I went here, and then, you know, they did this, and then we got a position where we accidentally blundered just 2 pawns down. How did I win this position? Because my opponent was completely at home, I just developed all of my pieces to the middle immediately. I didn't touch anybody else. And now I'm threatening all sorts of stuff. I'm threatening knight to c4 followed by knight takes d6. Like, look, knight c4 is just plus a million. Knight hits the queen, and because the king is still in the middle, knight takes d6 is completely devastating, defended by the rook, pinning here, and totally crushing. Actually, when this happened, I was really close to landing exactly what I was looking for. My opponent went d6, which was reasonable. Bishop d7 was a reasonable move. And long castles was okay, but it lost this pawn. And so after the pressure built up against the opponent, I managed to, you know, get a crushing position. I was kind of joking here that maybe the opponent would repeat. Of course, I wasn't going to repeat. I was probably going to play like, if queen d5, bishop c6, maybe like, well, queen e6, bishop d7 is always there. So that's a bit of an issue, but even queen c4 is probably okay. Just, you have to do it the right way. But the way it happened in the game, allowing my knight in, here it's just a matter of time. Fun fact, there is a winning tactic in this position. I did see it, and I wonder if at this point in the comment section people have written about it. The tactic was to take on e5 with the bishop. And the point was that after pawn takes bishop, you take the queen. And the queen is the defender of the rook. So bishop takes, pawn takes, and now instead of rook takes rook, queen takes. And the point is, if pawn takes, you take the rook, which is unprotected. And if rook takes rook, it's extremely important. You do not take the rook and lose your queen. We don't have a check. We come back, we protect this, and we are winning. That is not easy to spot. If this was a puzzle given to you and you knew it was a puzzle, you would probably find bishop e5, queen b6. But it's not easy. Not an easy thing at all to spot in the middle of a game. So I went for what I thought was relatively normal. But now there is this way to attack 2 rooks at the same time. Loose pieces drop off, in the words of the great Daniel Naritsky. LPDO. Hanging rook, and just in a really brutal coincidence, the piece between them cannot move anywhere. And that is how we picked up another win. Certainly a weird episode. I would like to call it here. And in the next one, we will... you know what? Maybe I'm not going to call it here. No, we're going to do one more because the first 2 games just were completely ridiculous. So I don't want to spoil any. I don't want to ruin anybody's slower episode. One more for the road. If we get another e4, I will play another Caro-Kann, or maybe I'll play Scandinavian, or maybe my opponent won't even make a move. Let's see. e3. No idea what that does. So you can either play e5 or d5. I have said that I like to play the reverse London with the bishop. e3 is one of these moves where people try to get the bishop and the queen out. That's one of these sneaky things. This is by far the most effective way. So yeah, so now we're just going to develop our knight, our light squared bishop. We're going to play with the e pawn. We're going to play with the c pawn. D and c pawns go very well in queen's pawn games. Okay, blocking with the pawn here is very effective. Technically, our knight cannot go there anymore, but I don't like to put the knight in front of the c-pawn in queen's pawn games. I think this is just very easy. The bishop will come out next, then the knight, and then we will build in the center. That's our idea. Against non-e4 openings, this little simple pyramid setup with the light squared bishop and these pawns, or the reverse London, gets you a very easy, nice game. Very chill position you get. And life is good. Okay, we can attack the queen. I don't really care. I don't know what this time expenditure is. Just super strange by my opponent. Next, pawn, and then bishop, and then knight, and then castle, and then play in the center. So this is actually the second time in this video, if not the third time. It's not exactly a Caro-Kann, but doesn't this look familiar? How this knight doesn't do anything, and this bishop is just blocked. Yeah, it's the same exact concept. Hopefully you're learning something, right? Now we're gonna go here, and we've gotten all of our pieces out and about. I haven't spent any time because there's nothing to spend time on, you know? White's development is bad. This. What is this? Was that a slip? Okay. Okay, so suddenly my opponent is playing much faster. Same pawn break from a couple games ago. Let's go pawn to e5. Pawn to e5, just like we did a couple of games ago. My opponent didn't take. Okay. We can advance. I like advancing here because the knight is a very important piece for white, and if we just push it out of the position, then it's totally nice for us. That just loses a pawn. So we take with a knight. We take with a bishop. Now we are setting up a Greek gift. We hit every criteria. Bishop takes, knight g4, queen h4, no way to stop queen h2. It's right here. It's all there. So if white plays something like bishop d2, we're going to play it on the next move. White could play f4. That is not a stupid move. Then we can take en passant. Important to remember that. It's also just important, like, I see that I can take this knight, but I don't see a reason why I should do that. I don't think this bishop is worth trading off for such a piece. The knight is not doing anything. Wow, I literally predicted it. Now, may I present to you the Greek gift sacrifice. Kaboom. Step 1. The h2 pawn is protected by nothing except a king. Step 2. Knight to g4 is possible. Whether it's just able to go there or it's defended. And step 3. Queen to h4 is the next move. h2 is incoming. f2 is threatened. And our attack is absolutely vicious here. White could make a run for it and blunder a queen f2 mate, thinking that we only had this. White can play rook f1, and queen h2 is mate. White can play queen e2, and queen h2 here, queen h1 is mate. And I literally predicted it. Queen f2 is checkmate. I feel like that's a very nice note to end this video on, just to show you, like, getting into the mind of a 1060, 1070 rated player. That third player clearly was above 1100 before, and I can almost guarantee that he was. In fact, I will go check. You know, I never do stuff like this, but I am extremely curious about that individual. Okay, so that person that I played in the third game has an account that's like 10 years old, clearly extremely experienced, and not only was my opponent very high rated, my opponent just a month ago was rated 1267. So in the last month, my opponent just hit a slump, and that happens. Hey, it's normal to lose 100 points in chess. Like, it's totally normal. It just happens, and then it takes you a little while, but you will get it back. You know, it's just sometimes you get unlucky, then you get tilted, then you get some up-and-coming opponents. You might play some more younger opponents. It's clear that that person had a much higher ceiling than some of the other players we played today. Getting to 1100 is not that difficult. Everything we did today was very principled. We got our knights and bishops out. We made a couple of key pawn moves just to open up the position. And then we had to know a couple of tactics, like the Greek gift. Now you know. Look how vicious it is. And look how to avoid the mistake of doing it earlier in the video. In the next episode, we will cross 1100. Do continue to let me know your feedback in the comments. And that is all I have for you today. Get out of here.